Africans should protect their money from the state. Financial expert Magnus Heystek says that people should get off the financial grid. He's created a checklist on how you can protect your money against the failing state. Now, this includes, of course, paying as little tax as possible in a legally way and also moving money offshore. But Heystek joins now me right here on the show to give us more on this checklist this morning. So, Magnus, thank you so much for your time and a very warm good morning to you. We'll get into the checklist in just a moment, but let me ask you this. Is South Africa moving towards being a failing state, or is it already one?
Good morning, Tamela. South Africa is in many parts a failing state. I mean, it's pointless, trying to find reasons not to agree with that statement. Many prominent people, across the spectrum, Professor William Gumede from Wits, Darby Ruert, etc., talks about a failing state in greater or smaller parts. And this has had an impact for a long time on the investment returns that average South Africans have been getting on their traditional investments, the pension funds, their discretionary investments in the stock market, unit trusts, property investments, the currency. You put this all into one big pot, and it's very clear that whatever you want to call it, a failing state or the state's control over certain sectors of the economy, and you've just discussed the crime situation with Yusuf Abramji, that is making us all poorer in many respects, where the returns are simply not there and they are affected by what is going on in the bigger context. The foreigners are pulling money out of South Africa en masse. Last week, Business Day reported the outflow of the equity market by foreigners is 100 billion rand. I mean, that's a humongous amount of money, and this all adds up to lower returns to you and me and ordinary people who are trying to save for investments.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been saying for quite a long time. You have to take cognizance of what's happening in the greater South African macroeconomic situation. You cannot just say, alles sal regkom, everything's fine, don't worry, which tends to be the message we get from the traditional asset managers. And it's time that ordinary South Africans, you don't have to be super rich or very wealthy, ordinary South Africans with small investment portfolios, even property, need to carefully look at where they're allocating their capital so as to minimize exposure to where the state or the inefficient state is having the biggest impact on your rands and cents.
So in essence, you are advising that it's time to state-proof ourselves as well as our family right now. So where do we begin? I mean, for one person, looking at everything happening in South Africa from crime perspective, from our focus on, the ailing railway networks, I mean, the list is endless in as far as where we can say the state is failing or, we're seeing South Africa moving to a crisis mode, into becoming a failed state. Where do I begin, Magnus, in terms of, proofing myself or rather just taking care of my wealth or at least my assets at this time? Where do I begin?
Well, the easiest place to start is with your existing or your current investments. Most people sign up with an advisor or just sign up a debit order years ago with a unit trust investment, and they simply don't look at where that money is invested. They can quickly go and very easily look at where their money is invested and try and find alternatives available to them in South Africa where they can move their money from a locally dominated portfolio to an offshore dominated portfolio. Cheap, easy, very simple. You simply switch your money into an offshore fund in South Africa. That's very simple to do. If you've got other investments, if you're lucky enough to have a stock market portfolio or a property portfolio, you need to reconsider hanging on to those portfolios and instead trying to get them offshore and into global investments, which, by the way, over the last 10 to 15 years, the returns have been double than the South African market. So those are the quick and easy ways to get involved. Those people who've got pension funds, they should inquire more about their pension funds exposures. And very few people do. They simply trust the system. They've got a human resource manager, but they need to go and ask, where is my money invested? Can I not get more offshore exposure in my pension fund?
Right.
And again, easy, not millions of rands. You can change your asset allocation quite simply and quite easily, and the returns are much better.
Well, Magnus, thank you so much for speaking to us. That's all the time I had with you. And just on the conversation or what can one do to protect their money from South Africa's failing state? Quite concerning scenes we're seeing around the country, from crime, corruption, to perhaps even our focus, as I've mentioned before, on our failing and ailing, or rather decaying railway networks. But of course, investment strategist Magnus Heystek giving us some advice there on how one can protect their money, amongst others, of course, considering moving your money offshore, having a business rather that which you can have its operations offshore, or perhaps even investing in dollars. Some of the advice that we're seeing here from Magnus Heystek from Brenhurst. Well, thank you so much for your time, Magnus.